partner in a firm he did not launch, but who has nonetheless built himself a profitable caseload with the help of a major presence on TikTok, also with an expanding referral network. There's a lot we can learn from him. Let's go. Hi there, welcome back to the Grow with Cara show. Today we continue our interview series with successful attorney marketers. We're taking a close look at what's working, what's not working so well, the specific steps these attorneys took to get to where they are. And remember, these are simple steps that you too can follow to get on a similar path to growth. Okay, let's dive in like we always do. Today, our special guest is attorney John DeGasperis. John is a trial lawyer and partner at the law offices of Bosch & Keegan in Kingston, New York. He's recovered more than $50 million for his clients. He's a pretty big deal on TikTok. We're excited to have him here today. Welcome, John. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun. I'm honored to be on the show because I watch all of your other videos, so I'm impressed that I made the cut.
Well, thank you. We're excited to dive in. So, John, to begin, tell us a little bit about your story and your background.
Sure. I practice almost exclusively personal injury law in upstate New York, outside of New York City. It's a pretty broad region. We call it the Hudson Valley region, but I've been doing it now for 11 years. I started my first year and a half. I was doing general practice. I knew that I wanted to practice personal injury law. And it's funny because you have reminded me that some of what we do as lawyers is marketing our services. And I remember when I first started with Bosch & Keegan almost 12 years ago or so, I did a postcard mailer and I said, old firm, new face. And it was with my own money. And I mailed it to the people on my wedding invitation list. And that was like my first attempt at marketing my services.
I love that. I was going to ask you specifically about how you were kind of bringing those clients early on. Sometimes it's easy to forget. Tell your friends and family, tell the people who are, invested in seeing you succeed, what you're doing and where you are. I mean, that sounds like that's kind of the first step that you took.
Yeah, and I think still to this day, after practicing now for 13 years, I believe in the big fish, small pond effect. I practiced in the community where I was born and raised. And so most of my work is referred by friends, family, or other lawyers. I got 70 some odd thousand followers on TikTok, and still word of mouth is the best resource. And they're mostly people in my community that I know.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, social media is a great way to kind of bolster that
right.
Word of mouth, right? Yeah, we'll get into that social media because you're doing a great job on there. What type of personal injury cases are you primarily handling now? Give us an idea of your case volume.
I handle too many cases. I handle a lot of cases. I think in part that is my success. I help a lot of people. I love my work, so I don't mind working a lot and working late and working weekends. I handle cases that run the gambit, big and small. Accidents, falls are probably the number 1 and 2 case types that I carry. But I do product liability cases. I handle medical malpractice cases. I handle insurance claims, life insurance claims that don't get paid out, disability claims, anything that is tort law related. I just settled last week a wage and hour dispute for someone.
Yeah, so definitely a broad range. That's good.
And not all lawyers would agree to being so diverse within that practice, but it's something that this law firm has always offered, that diversity in practice. Anything really where I get to go after a corporation or an insurance company, and if it has a tort law element to it, I'll handle it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Let's talk about social media. As we talked about, you're very active. You're at @DeGasperis_ESQ on both Instagram and TikTok. You're big on TikTok, more than 2.3 million likes, looks like about more than 76,000 followers. Is social media a sizable lead driver for you, John?
I don't think so. And so I would caution people that it can be, but you should really know what your objective is, and you should know which platforms will serve that objective. Now, I'm not going to say I don't get cases from it, because I do, but I find that the lead quality is below average.
Mm.
But however, I do think that it is a great generator, or for example, Facebook is a great reminder for people in my community, local people, that this is what I do. TikTok has brought me leads from across the nation, and I can't really use those leads, right? I do if they're big enough cases, or I do refer them out to other lawyers, and I sort of generate some income through referral leads. But to be honest with you, I would caution people about how much time and money they spend on social media. It could be that I'm not very good at it. I mean, you look at guys like CEO Lawyer or Top Dog Law. I think that they have been successful, so they say. But I am fortunate enough to get referrals from CEO Lawyer. I know that part of his business model is to get cases from everywhere and refer them out. I don't really want to do that because I like lawyering. I like developing relationships with the clients. I'm a trial lawyer. That's what I get a thrill out of. I don't really get a thrill out of the money. I make plenty of it, but so I think that there's no question social media is a wonderful tool, but I would caution people to know what your goal is and which platforms will serve that goal. I also use it more for branding. So I don't do a lot of call to action. So it probably does generate a lot of work and leads for me, but it's not necessarily measurable.
Right. Yeah. So kind of despite that caution, I mean, you are investing time and resources
Yes,
into
absolutely.
social
Absolutely.
media.
Right.
So why do you feel like it is worthwhile? I mean, it does sound like you're definitely, at least building that referral network. Yeah.
Sure. I think it's worthwhile because it is the modern day television and radio. And so you could never measure the success of a radio platform unless you gave a telephone number that was coded by some way, but you just measure it by the amount of phone calls you're getting, right? Whereas now, pay per click on Google, if they clicked that ad. So social media, I think, is important for brand awareness. There are times where it can generate leads. So I have a class action, my first class action that I'm handling. And it is not generic, like, hey, were you involved in a car accident? Call me, because the programs can't measure that data analysis. But this class action affects a certain limited group of people, mostly men, and in a certain age bracket. So I was able to tell Instagram and Facebook serve these ads to a certain group of people, and that has been wildly successful.
Sure.
So you have to be in the game, but I think you have to know what your goal is, which platforms to use, and you have to humble your expectations.
Yep, I think that's all really great advice. Specifically talking about the platform. So you are on Instagram and TikTok. Where did you start? Did you start which platform did you start on?
So I started when COVID-19 hit, because in New York, the government shut down private business, essentially. It was called New York Pause. And there was basically a day where we were all told to go home. The government told the law firms and other businesses, go home until we figure this out. And I knew that if we came out of that doing the same things that we were doing beforehand, that I was going to die on the vine. So I started making videos that day, and primarily my goal was to inform clients as to the updates about their cases, the courts, what was going to be happening, how the delays were going to affect their cases. And then it morphed into something else. And I will say this, I've spent a lot of money on social media. I've tried pretty much all of the platforms. I've had highs and lows. I've had successes and losses. The process of learning has been extraordinary. And there have been a lot of people out there, yourself included, who have helped me and others learn. And I think sometimes it's hard to break in, right? So there are people that can go on Instagram tomorrow and have success, but there are more people who are going to go out there on Instagram and they're not going to get followers overnight. It can be a drag. It can take time. But I was early in TikTok, or relatively early. So I have wild success there. And I couldn't tell you why on TikTok a video gets 700,000 views, but on Instagram it gets 500 views. Right. So it's algorithmic. So you have to, I think you have to be persistent, and you have to sort of take a wide breadth of things.
Yep, yep. So were you sort of instantly comfortable in front of the camera? Because now your videos, appear very comfortable and confident in front of the camera. Was that something you sort of, was that a process, or was that something that wasn't too hard for you?
I'm not nervous about much. I can walk into a trial and pick it up the day before and I'll be fine. I think that there was a certain level of nervousness in front of the camera that I didn't even recognize at first. But then over time I've gotten more comfortable. It was never that I felt uncomfortable, but I think I changed who I was when they said go. And I think I've gotten a little bit better about being myself. I will say this though. I think that you have to be truly confident in what you're doing, not so much in yourself, but what you're doing. Because I took a lot of grief from my friends, from my family, because I was trying to post a video a day. And for someone in my in my community to post once a day, that was strange.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a point where I was sort of doing like a Gary Vee style where I was paying somebody to follow me around. That was strange. And I took a lot of grief for it, but I believed in the mission. And, recently I've sort of slowed down my social media because I needed a break, like emotionally. But what's interesting is it was when I slowed down that I realized how powerful an impact I made, because now I can't go anywhere in my hometown without someone saying, I see your videos.
Oh, wow.
And so you asked earlier, does it work? Does it bring me cases? I think so. I can't really measure it. Maybe shame on me for that, but I think I've made an impact.
Well, I think you make a good point too. It's not always so easily measured, right? If there's not this direct ROI through line necessarily, like there is with PPC or some of the other digital marketing campaigns that you might be running. It is certainly more of a branding play, absolutely. So you seem to have kind of gone all in with legal education videos. You don't really go outside of that video type. Take us through your current process. How do you kind of find inspiration for those new video topics?
Again, you're right. I stay in my lane, and here's why. Because I watch some of these lawyers on TikTok who have 3 million followers, and they're talking about pop culture, for example. And I wonder, do they make any money? Right. And it doesn't have to be about money. And so making those TikTok videos about pop culture legal issues makes you happy, then great, do it. But I have a family to feed, I have a business to run, and I like lawyering. Right. I don't care to take the time out of my life to figure out, why Kim Kardashian didn't pass the baby bar, right? It's just it's how I choose to use my time. For me, if I'm doing social media, it is because ultimately I want someone to perceive me as an expert, as being helpful, as sharing information. I have zero desire to spend the little time I have on this world talking about topics that don't interest me.
Yeah, you're really showcasing your expertise, further establishing yourself as the authority, definitely. Tell us about specifically some topics that performed particularly well for you, maybe some of those videos that went viral.
Well, my first ever video to go viral, I sued a 9-year-old and won. And that, I think, really, that made a splash across platforms.
That's good.
I talk about insurance companies and which insurance companies are better to deal with than others. They seem to be doing well as of recent past. I talk a little bit about DWI law and criminal law, because I do have like a small criminal practice that I just sort of do as a hobby because it gets me out of the office. And I like it, it's constitutional, but I talk some criminal law that gets attention. But otherwise, I have to tell you, I have no idea what is going to work. And, I think I did a video on waivers of liability, and it was one of my best performing videos of all time with close to 3 million views or something, over 2 million. I would never have thought, right? And so I think you have to make these videos with the mindset of it's because it makes you feel good, because you think it's going to affect somebody, because it may make an impact or educate. If you try to make a video for what you think other people would like, then I think it won't usually hit the way you want it to hit.
That's good advice. And I think, I'm also kind of hearing you say testing, a broad range of topic types too, because you never do really know what will resonate, and you might be surprised what actually does.
And I think it can be platform specific. On Facebook, I don't do as much of my education push as much as I talk from the heart. You know, I'll say, oh, I helped this local person and it felt really good because they sent me a thank you note. That type of thing on Facebook has a different impact as compared to if I said that on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I think, again, you have to know your audience, and that's kind of my point there, is each platform, I think, wants a different type of thing.
Yeah, good point.
However, there are plenty of lawyers. I know the Payne lawyer, he does the same videos across platforms and they do well on both. So that's great for him. That hasn't been my experience.
I've definitely heard both, from both camps on this show. My guests have, sometimes they have to shoot a TikTok exclusive content. Other times they're just repurposing across platforms, and it seems to be, working for some and not for others. So yeah, I agree. You kind of just have to figure it out. I'm interested in kind of how much time you're spending on social media in general. Are you shooting videos in batches? How often do you typically shoot?
Too much time, because again, if I didn't have to, I wouldn't do it. I do it in batches. I pay an outside vendor to come in and do it. I don't necessarily know any other way, but I think if I could, if social media was more impactful in bringing in cases for me, I would just do it in-house. And I had in-house people, but it also sort of like disrupted the flow of my practice because they were always here.
Mm-hmm.
And again, at the end of the day, I had to evaluate what my goals were. My goals were to lawyer and to be a trial lawyer.
Right.
And I don't have this desire to build this massive law firm. I keep it lean and mean. We have 15 people under the roof. We have 4 lawyers and 12, 11 staff or so. And we know what we need to hit to do really well. And so I prefer to have a manageable caseload. But yeah, I do batch. I've slowed it down recently. I'm preparing to gear it up again. When I first started, I was doing it myself on a phone. Then I brought somebody in and bought a camera, and they would follow me through the day. And then I brought on a vendor and had that person on staff. So it's been an evolution. I think you have to find your comfort zone. It costs money. And when things started to go well for me, it was like, well, now what do we do about the phone calls? And then it was like, well, you should have a website to support it. And then you had to, so to create some infrastructure, there's some layout of money. And I think that some young lawyers use the phone and create their own videos. And I'm not here to judge which is the right way to do it. I do think, though, that they have to sort of make sure they're making the right decision about how much time they're dedicating to creating videos versus getting good results, because I believe that getting good results is the best marketing that you can have, because the happy client is your disciple and they will go out and refer. So I'm at a point in my career where I have extraordinary relationships with my clients. I get good results. All of my work comes from clients, past clients, existing clients, or other lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really solid advice. I love it. Are you putting any money behind boosting these videos? Are you investing in Facebook advertising outside of the the mass torts?
Currently, no. I have in the past. I've tried campaigns with a call to action. I limited it to car accidents. It was not a successful campaign. I think, again, because it's very limited in its ability to identify who was in a car accident.
Right.
I've done it. I've boosted posts just to get more attention and followers and visibility. Those had mild success. Again, I found that I was gaining people outside of the region that I wanted to serve. But I do intend to do more of it, because I think the beta testing, the process, is both fun, interesting, and important. And somewhere in there is a sweet spot. And if you don't try it, you won't find it. So I will be going back to that well.
Yeah. Are you investing in any other marketing outside of what we've talked about?
Not personally. So you have to remember, I'm part of a law firm, and I believe in social media, whereas my partner's maybe a little bit older. or more skeptical. They had success using the phone book, and they had
Sure.
wild success using the phone book.
Sure. Right.
Um, I also wanted my own name, my own brand. I didn't want to have to shop it by my partners, what was, if I said something was that acceptable.
Right.
So that was a decision I made, was to use my own money and resources and time for social media. As a law firm, of course, we use billboards, we use pay-per-click campaigns, we use social media, we use mailers, giveaways, T-shirts.
Sure.
We go to farmers markets and things like that.
Yep. Yeah, I noticed that you even, I think you mentioned this, you have your own personal website as well outside of the
Right,
firm site. Are you
right.
driving traffic to that, or is that more of kind of a
Yeah, I
landing
mean,
for your social media?
I would say to anybody who's going to use social media, you should have a website, because actually most of the communications that I get come through the website. So I think people are finding me on social media and then they'll message me through the website. I use my own money for that. Again, it's an infrastructure that I built. I did it because I thought to myself, if this social media campaign is successful, if I get my name out there, then that would allow me to either, one, measure the success so that I could say to my partners, I want more money because I'm bringing you more cases,
Right.
or I could go out and do it myself. I have found in a balance that I like my current situation, and I'm still toying with things, and I don't feel the need to go out on my own yet. But I know that if I did, I would be using a lot of social media.
Sure, sure. So as you mentioned, John, Instagram, TikTok, these are obviously national platforms, of course. You're kind of creating this lawyer to lawyer referral network. Is that true? Or are you kind of building a network through social media?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly learned, especially through TikTok, that one of the things that social media does well is expand your reach. That's also a downfall, is that it expands the reach and sometimes beyond where you want it or need it to go. However, I kept getting calls from California and Texas, and they were legitimate leads, but really of no interest to me because it didn't necessitate that I go to those states. So I referred them out, and I was making some money through referrals. So yeah, it's been a nice sort of supplement to my income, nothing crazy. But certainly when the opportunity arises, I refer the cases out. And then I keep that lawyer's contact information. I've created a little log. And if they do get a good result, then they'll be the ones to get the case next time.
Excellent. Are you receiving referrals from that network, or is it mostly just?
Yes, I've had, again, some success from social media getting referrals.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Are you using AI in your practice, either for marketing or your daily work at all?
Not with marketing yet. I will contemplate that. It's just again like a bandwidth of time issue. I've
Sure.
started to use it to help me draft things, and it's impressive. I don't fear that it's going to replace me, but I think it's an important tool.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of amazing, right?
It's
It's pretty
very
remarkable.
interesting, and I would, just like social media, I think you have to try it to learn it and understand it. And I knew that that AI seems to be a force that that you have to reckon with, so you might as well
Right,
learn it.
right. Can't ignore it. Right. Are you using ChatGPT? Is that
I
what you?
use ChatGPT, and I'd like to explore other things, but I use it, and I've used it multiple times.
Yeah, yeah. I know supporting your community, taking kind of an active role in the community is important to you. Why do you spend time with the community?
I mean, more on a moral level, I'm very fortunate. I do very well, and it feels like the right thing to do. I live in the community where I work, and so if I give back something of myself, it'll be a better place to live for me and my children. On a more selfish level, you hope that by doing good, you are repaid in some way, and that people recognize your name as being a sponsor to something. But I love community. I love talking to people. So when you sponsor something, if you decide to go participate in the event, then you were interactive, or the people want to meet with you to talk about some public event they want to hold. It's the interaction. It's just being a human. So there are both selfless and selfish reasons why.
Yeah, yeah, that's a win-win, right? And how about you mentioned Actually, I always like to ask before we wrap up, John, if a lawyer watching has time to adopt maybe one or only two of your tips, what would you recommend?
I would recommend using your disciples as your marketing tools, right? I always think about Barack Obama won that presidency, his first presidency, with these small grassroots donations. And while there is certainly a place for billboards, radios, and TV ads, and I know that because I use them, I still think that word of mouth is the most powerful tool. Use the people who know you, who know your work, to tell other people, and that you may have to remind them from time to time. I would also tell young people, be a good lawyer, be a good person, but be a good lawyer, get good results, do good work. Where your opposition is spending time making a TikTok video, I spend researching the law. And so I know that I get good results because I know the law. I know how to practice law first. And I think that at the end of the day, that shines through for me.
Yeah, and those past client referrals, I mean, nothing is better than that. It sounds
That's
like,
the best feeling in the world. Yeah.
right, right. And you're getting those by obviously doing good work, like you said, being a good lawyer, being a good person. Is there anything outside of the stellar communication and customer service piece that you're doing kind of specifically to stay in touch? Do you have a newsletter or are you reaching out on an ongoing basis?
I think I would tell people to vary your approach. You can use mailers. I've been using mailers recently because everybody's so digitized, their face is always in the screen. So to get a mailer with a magnet on it with your phone number is, something different. But I believe in diversification. Hit them all ways that you can. Maybe it's a mailer, maybe it's a email newsletter. Again, social media. I've been using Facebook more than ever recently because I get no reach on Instagram. But one personal post about how I took the day off from work to spend it with my sick daughter because my wife had to work. I got 1,000 views on that video on Facebook,
Right.
where Instagram gives me no love, right? And that's because Facebook is local. Facebook, the people on Facebook know me from high school. They know me from, coaching soccer or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that is sort of full circle, right? Kind of going back to not only offline, but even back to Facebook, where a lot of attorneys are kind of sleeping on Facebook now because, they think that the opportunity is solely on Instagram or TikTok. I think that's interesting because of that personal post and the local focus of Facebook. I mean,
Well,
that can
not
go a long way.
Yeah, and I realized that with TikTok. It was like, well, I'm getting all these calls from Texas and California and all over the place. And it was wildly successful and it was incredibly empowering and enlightening. It's like, holy crap, we can use social media to reach people across the world. However, I work in New York.
Right.
And that's really where I'm going to make my money. Those are the court systems I know. It makes sense for the client to work with a New York lawyer in most scenarios. And so I was like, well, I got to rethink this. The other thing I would tell people, if you're going to use social media, don't always look at it through the lens of the platforms you use.
Huh.
Think about the platforms that your customers use. And I remember, so I had two people who were in-house working with me, and they were always posting to Instagram, but Instagram gave me no love. Meanwhile, TikTok was exploding. My YouTube was doing okay. And Facebook had always sort of done well. And I said, why do you keep posting to Instagram? And I knew that it was because that's what they used. That's the platform they use. So that's why they went to Instagram. And I said to them at some point, it should be the 5th post that we do because other platforms are doing better by us. So why do we continue to scratch Instagram's back when it doesn't like us?
Where is your target audience hanging out? Double down there. I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Great, John. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was a lot.
You're welcome.
Fun.
Thanks again for having me.
Time. You're super generous. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Keep up the good work. You're doing great stuff there, really.
Thanks, John. Lots of good stuff from John today, right? Here are the key takeaways I see. Number one, individual branding provides security. Even though John is a partner in a firm he didn't launch, he's invested his time and money in creating personal social profiles and his own website and in promoting all of them. These marketing assets give him additional stature and negotiating leverage at the firm, which will allow him to readily move on if he ever chooses to do so. Number 2, a referral network delivers a second income and cases. Social promotion is national, of course, so a necessary component of that is creating a referral network. If you select referral partners who are also promoting socially, they'll refer cases back to you. You thus benefit 2 ways, referral fees and additional cases. Number 3, Facebook is a frequently neglected source of leads. You may not remember my earlier interviews with Ali Awad, but he previously reported that Facebook was actually his #1 source of leads. Today, we heard from John that Facebook is also a lead source for him. A big reason Facebook works so well is that a higher percentage of your Facebook followers will be local, right? And will also know you and be well aware of you. Number 4, paid social advertising works exceptionally well for mass torts. The precise targeting available with social ads makes them ideally suited to mass torts. I've heard about major success with their mass torts campaigns from other guests, actually. Remember Kyle Newman, Mariah Solis, now John. And number 5, social media is a magnifier. Whether or not you can sort of directly attribute leads to your social media posts, know that it is increasing your visibility. That's just a fact. The trick is efficiently maintaining an active and engaging presence, right? So as John points out, time spent creating videos is time not spent on your cases and with your clients. I hope John's learnings have been instructional, also his tips helpful. I know it was a lot of fun for me. Next week's interview is with an injury and criminal defense attorney who's bringing in quality cases from social media despite his simplified approach to video creation and case screening. In the meantime, if you do need help growing your social media presence, let's chat. As part of our Done For You Marketing Amplifier, we script, shoot, edit, caption, boost, and post all for you. We're currently shooting and posting, more than 200 social videos every single week for attorneys around the country. We really know what works. We can really take all of this social media work off of your plate. You can actually find my calendar link in the chat. I just dropped it in the chat. If you're interested in learning more, let's talk. I look forward to connecting, and I'll see everyone back here next week. Have a good one. Keep marketing. Bye.